I am mostly being like, okay, like
Hello, folks, and welcome back to Into the Black. Not especially metal, but somewhat fun. Star Trek Adventures role-playing game using the Modiphius 2D20 rule set. We are finally live. Unfortunately, I'm a bad jammer because I slept in because daylight savings transitioned here in Australia backwards rather than forwards. And I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning playing No Man's Sky. So, between these things, Gemma is a naughty girl and feels very sorry to the players who have been very patiently waiting on for this show to resume. So, let's get going. We will jump more or less straight into the action, but we will do a very quick whip round the crew in order of rank, descending, etc. As we have on the overlay. Please welcome our players. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There's our players. We didn't want our credit screen already. That was a little preemptive. So, let's start with Fliss, and let's work around the board, as it were. So Fliss, Kirsten, Nick, LK, and Ulfrig, my apologies again. Let's just quickly jump through and introduce yourselves and tell us what you do and where to find you.
I'm Fliss. You can find me on Twitter at RadmissFliss. I am Captain Gale Ixa, the Bajoran Starfleet Captain.
Hi, I'm Kirsten. I play Commander Taizo Jeknor, the Andorian First Officer and Chief of Security.
I'm Nick. I play Lieutenant Commander Soto Redat, the Cardassian helmsman.
Hi, I'm LK. I am the science officer of the Sacagawea, and I am a Cation.
And hello, I go by Ulfrig online, and I am playing Junior Lieutenant Andris Grax, who is a Betazoid engineer.
Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you. So, this somewhat sleep-deprived GM has managed to get the first sip of coffee in, thanks to your being able to manage that process yourselves. So thank you. And I will do what I can to become conscious as quickly as possible. Because a conscious GM is usually better at telling stories than a still half asleep one. So, as a reminder, we were last at the Shackleton station for a dinner party at a local restaurant, Bajoran restaurant, with the Admiral and Admiral April Hebert and one General Kargan from the KDF, who is her co-commander on Narendra Station. Kargan proved himself to be no fool, and Hebert showed her chops in that respect as well by provoking stories from you which she knew would put the general at his ease. He spotted the attempt to manipulate the situation, and he even went as far as calling her out on it. But it was, despite the apparent clumsiness, I mean, it was fairly subtle, really. But despite that, Kargan was somewhat mollified by the presence of a new Federation vessel in his patch, as it were, and he actually has nodding respect for some of you. There was an approach made once Kargan left by to the table by one Geltrix Bar, sorry. Half Zactorn, half human, Starfleet intelligence attaché to Admiral Hebert's command. He shared some useful information with you and gave you some insights into what you might be facing. He also pointed out his new baby, which is a prototype Steamrunner class vessel, which was parked a bit further around the ring from yours. He will also be out and about in the Shackleton now and then, but a big part of what he will be doing is monitoring the threats that are identified by your crew and that of the USS Hypatia, who has had their first encounter out in the Shackleton so far. So, without further ado, I should also mention that that Bar also approached Taizo in her capacity as the ship's security officer, asking her to keep an eye on the crew, and in particular the Vulcan Katra Ark known as the Maiden's Blessing, which resides on your vessel. There are some very specific things that he is after. One of those is any way to retrieve the information supposedly lost when the bridge crew, the command crew of the USS Hypatia was mugged by a Ferengi outfit with mercenaries on the concourse of Narendra Station, no less, trying to make a play for some information that they had picked up from a planet that was populated primarily by augments. For those of you who are less Trek literate, augments are the same people who led to a certain Carl Noonien Singh, also known as Khan! And they have been living peacefully on the planet of Kuvat 2 for some hundreds of years under the protection of a "you don't exist, we don't care" treaty that was established between them, the Klingons, and the Federation some time ago. That they actually handed over a huge archive of technology and data, along with the science primers required to understand it. And Geltrix Bar is very, 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 very keen to get that fully recovered, because during the attack, some of the Isolania chips were damaged, and amongst those destroyed was a key primer that actually told people how to use and understand this technology. So Taizo has been asked to try and engage with the Maiden's Blessing, if possible, to see if they can influence their pals over in the other Katra Ark, and find a way for you to get your own copy of this data. Of course, there's strict instructions not to actually use the data, to open it up and take a look, just to bring back a copy to him as soon as you can get it. So, without further ado, you are on the vessel. Are there any scenes you wanted to do before you pull away from Narendra Station?
I have to run and grab my book.
That's very true. Okay, so will you be asking for permission to leave the ship to do that, or will you be just making a quick mad dash? knowing that they probably won't leave without the helmsman.
I think I'll go ahead and ask permission. Captain,
Yes.
I need to run to the station for 1 minute. May I have permission to deboard?
You've had 8 hours to take care of this, and you're waiting until now?
I don't think it arrived until now.
Make it quick.
Aye, Captain.
Okay. So, Celta, you quickly dash off the ship, sprinting into the promenade. You find the bar, and you head straight over to the young woman who had approached you, or who you had approached, and it turned out that they were a working girl, as it were. But she's also somewhat of a fixer, and she has found this book for you. She places the book on the table, along with 2 others from the same author, and says, "You know what? If it's all good with you, Celtar, I can call you Celtar, yes?
Sure.
Celtar, if it's all good with you, we might make this one an introductory freebie. These were actually much easier to find than I expected, and basically came at no cost. Well, no monetary cost. So, if you're happy with taking a gift of new friendship, then I am happy to offer one."
Thank you so very much. I would love to accept this.
She pauses and says, "You will find something useful at the back of the 3rd one." And she holds that up. Just if a situation comes up where you feel that the new Cardassian command, which is to say the Cardassian command that will be in the future more tolerant, more open-minded, more liberal, comes up, if you feel a need to help that future government, feel free to reach out. And the back of that book will tell you how.
Sota hesitates and kind of just cradles it to his chest and says, "Thank you. I will definitely do that if and when the time comes." Before dashing back to the ship, apologizing as he kind of waves off, saying he is already late and needs to go.
Before you get a chance to do that, she stands, sensing your rush, blocks your path out, embraces you in a hug, and as she does so, she leans and whispers into your ear, "Please don't be a stranger, Celta." With that, she leans back and lets you pass.
I believe I will not. Thank you again.
As you leave, she yells out one last time, "Celta!" She taps her
Yes?
nose. Says, "No spoilers. Safe journeys." And she blows you a kiss.
Taken aback, Seltar doesn't quite know how to react and just kind of awkwardly shuffles out.
Okay.
Captain to
Yes, Captain.
it looks like Grex has the engines primed. Are you planning on coming back to the ship anytime soon?
I think I'll be there in just a moment, Captain. My apologies.
I'm the double commander. We've got space to explore.
Wow, am I feeling called out. Don't be late, Commander. Don't be late.
That was just at Nick, okay? I promise.
It's okay. I actually always delight in being called out when it's absolutely true and valid. So... Alright, so Seltar
I
gets back to
promise
the...
I wasn't even thinking about it.
It's okay, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I'm having a joke at my own expense.
So Seltar will not run back. That's beneath his dignity, but hurry back. And then try to, as coolly and slowly as he can, once he gets to the inside the ship, walk onto the bridge.
With as much dignity as he can muster, although it could have just been just as easy to ask for a transporter usage. Anyway, so Seltar, I'm assuming you turn up to the bridge as soon as possible with your newly retrieved booty.
Yes, I bring it right to the bridge. It's not going to be leaving my sight for a while.
Very, very valid. Okay. Alright, so, Seltar, you have an impatient-looking captain tapping her feet from her chair, looking somewhat anxious to get underway. How do we proceed?
Helm, engage thrusters. Take us out.
That'll do.
Aye, Captain. He'll kind of nod and then sit down, carefully place his books down underneath the console, and take the ship out.
Okay, let's take this opportunity to throw a bit of extra momentum on the board. With a full crew of 10, I should reset my threat pool to 10, but you are already at 5 momentum carrying over from the previous session. So, this is Control Con from you, Seltar, assisted by ships, engines Con. And I believe you were just given an order. Do you have the advisor trait on your captain there, Fliss?
I do.
Okay, so that means you get a free reroll of a die, regardless. And if you have a cautious, you can spend momentum to take a chance at an extra die and also an opportunity for a further reroll.
I think I'm probably good. Provided my helm operation focus applies, it's 3 successes from me.
All good then. Yep. One from the ship, one from... Actually, it's kind of academic because we can't really... we can't really bank
that's
them.
a success from the ship as well.
It makes me feel good, though.
Can we use them to create an advantage where we are aimed properly to engage warp without having to go to impulse? since we've gained, 2-3 momentum here. That's enough to create an advantage, right?
It certainly is. However, I will suggest a different use of that advantage. You have been sent a quick data packet from the Admiral informing you of the location that the crew of the USS Hypatia has first taken off towards. Just a quick reminder, there is a general directive of Warp 5 unless absolutely necessary in the Shackleton Expanse because of speed bumps, also known as subspace and gravitational anomalies. And pardon me. And of course, there's also the fact that you have come to this location with absolutely no exploration having been done in the Shackleton yet, because this is the year 2370. Before people start piling out there, in terms of Federation exploration. So it is relatively unmapped. The Hypatia has sort of started edging to the near left edge of that section of space. The Admiral suggests maybe you might want to go right or down the middle. To the right, there is a Class L, I believe it is, planet that looks like it could be interesting. Has a carbon dioxide, oxygen and nitrogen atmosphere, and an average outdoor temperature of about minus 20 degrees. It's an ice planet in the thick of what would be classified as a terrestrial ice age. If you choose to explore up the middle, as it were, you would find that the nearest system of interest would be a small nebula, which appears, for all its small size, to be quite dense. In fact, it's actually got some rather exotic matter at the fringes of it, which appear to be making obscuring from your senses, as awesome as they are, what lies within.
Well, I think that Class L planet sounds interesting. So let's set a course for that Class L planet. That's the Glacier planet, yeah?
That is indeed the Glacier planet. Captain, the advantage that I'm going to give you is that you actually have Celtar go to Impulse, get a decent distance away from the station, and make like you're aligning to head to the nebula. But at the last minute, you push to warp, and I will make it so that Nick doesn't need to roll to go to warp. But as you go to warp, you change direction very rapidly, so it's very hard for anyone to actually see the orientation of the ship as it punches the warp drives.
Sure. Commander Radat, set heading for 120 Mark 290. Engage at Warp 4.
Aye.
Okay, so this planet is going to take you about 2 days to get to. It was going to take 2 days at Warp 5. At Warp 4, it'll take you closer to 5, I think. Did anyone want to do any scenes while we get started and while I quickly blow my nose so I'm not having to sneeze anymore like that? Because, wow.
How long until we get to the planet?
5 days.
Right.
Well, Siltar will be pouring through those books, so if people need to talk with him, he'll be pretty easy to find.
Has Chicanor had a specific conversation with Grax about the, I keep wanting to say Maiden's Voyage, the Maiden's Blessing, outside of the Ready Room conversation that we had at the end of last?
No, I don't think so.
I'll leave that in your hands if you want to do.
Sure, I can go down and transmit your orders.
Oh, I don't have any orders in particular, but it was your job to do something about that, right? So my orders were give them the bare bones, if memory serves. I'm going to be sitting on the bridge talking probably to Lieutenant Kiten about the finer points of the anomaly, the spatial anomalies, as they've been reported in the Shackleton Expanse thus far, so that we are both prepared, hopefully as best we can, when we get.
Very,
Yeah,
very wise
I think
idea.
that's fair.
In return,
Sorry.
I am going to give you the same role that I gave the other crew last night to have a quick walk through or potentially discover or anticipate the kinds of damage that might happen to the ship should you hit one of these gravitational distortions at speed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
So
What's our role?
it is going to be it's going to be reason science from Kiten. If Kiten has an engineering buddy who might be willing to help, they can assist with reason engineering. And someone can roll computers engineering for the ship to have the ship model out the damage that might occur in various different scenarios.
Kirsten, do you want to roll for the ship this time? I rolled for the ship last time.
I can do that.
Right. My astrophysics would apply this time.
Astrophysics would
question.
absolutely apply.
Okay, so I'll be roll. I have a reroll thanks to my technical expertise, so this 20 won't apply.
Sorry, I should have mentioned the difficulty, so I'll let you take that roll again for free because you might want to spend momentum for it.
Okay.
It's the difficulty is going to be 3 as a base. No, sorry, 4 as a base. Because you actually need to gather some data on these anomalies. However, because you'll be using... actually, we'll make it computers sensors from the ship for the ship assist, which will reduce the difficulty to 3. And we'll see how you go from there. But I would recommend getting as many successes as you can for this. I would spend the momentum on it, getting more successes.
I'm gonna get a die with the momentum.
You could even spend 3 momentum to get 2 dice.
Yeah, sure. We are at the begin. Chance to get more momentum. Yeah, I'll spend the 3 to get.
Okay. And I am going to, because this is a transient phenomenon. Oh, okay. You spoiled my fun. I was going to spend 2 threat to raise the complication range to 18, but now that you've done that...
Oh. Yeah, no, I have a reroll because of technical expertise.
Because you're making this check effectively under captain's orders, you can have 1 roll for free. And you can have another reroll for cautious science if you have it.
Right. Okay. That's better. So
So 4 from you, 1 from Grax, and
no, it's 5 because the 3 is crit.
okay. All right. Has someone rolled for the ship yet? Is that Taizo? Was that your roll?
I did,
D18?
but yes.
Okay. So that's 2 momentum returned. No, 3 momentum returned. Sorry. You can spend some of it for additional information. One of the key points is you have a sliding scale that you're working with. At Warp 5, if you hit one of these gravitational anomalies without warning, it'll probably ping off your shields. At Warp 7, it would very quickly overwhelm your shields, and you would probably take significant structural damage. At Warp 9, think of crushing an aluminium can with your foot. That would be your ship. Like stomping on a can. At warp 9.975, which is your vessel's theoretical top speed, you would all be instantly vaporized. It would be, as the Monty Python people would have once said, an ex-USS Sacagawea. No pining about it.
Yeah, not fun. We are at warp 5, right?
You're currently warp 4. You could probably actually navigate through one of these distortions at warp 4 with minimal effect other than some a fair bit of rocking about. It would probably overwhelm the ship's what do we call them? Inertial dampers, inertial dampeners. So you get thrown around a bit. Yep, lots of lurching about in your chairs, but unless you hit a particularly strong spike somewhere in the thick of that, you'd probably be generally okay. So, how much momentum are you willing to spend on this for additional information?
I think that how much I earned from the row was 3.
Okay, so if you're going to spend 3, I will give you this, and it is a permanent advantage while you are navigating through the Shackleton Expanse. Before any transient gravitational anomaly presents itself, there is a spike of chronoton radiation just before it pops into being. It'll give you about 5 to 10 seconds to drop out of warp and slow the hell down. And that is a permanent advantage that you can have as a result of spending that much. If you had spent less, you would have had a situation where you'd have actually had to roll for that advantage. So well done. Smart choice.
Well, so we can detect then right before they happen.
Correct, and you have the ability to pass on the specific gravitational and chronometric sensor requirements to Grax to implement. And having spent that much momentum, they make that they make the appropriate adjustments without any problems. So,
I'd like to.
Sorry.
I'd like to give an order really quick, if I can.
Of course you can. You're the captain.
All right. Commander Radat, I want you to have your second up here for a couple hours during this shift to observe you and learning how to navigate these anomalies the best you two can together, so that by the time that their shift comes along, they are prepared and there to do the same thing for the following shift. I want you all three to work together to maximize your skill at piloting the Sacagawea so that we do not crash into any of these anomalies and get destroyed, while our best is taking a rest, because you're not going to stay your best for very long if you're just sitting there for all 3 shifts.
Not a problem, Captain.
That means you're going to have to come up during 3rd shift and spend a couple hours with the 3rd shift flight controllers.
All right, that should not be an issue.
It's just as well Lieutenant Commander Seltar has some light reading to keep himself awake with. All right. So,
I was thinking, would it be possible to make so the ship, as soon as it receives the warning of that we are going to where close by to one of these anomalies, a specifically dangerous one, would it be possible to program it to automatically go to full stop?
full stop Probably not, because that
Or
might
it's
be
all
as
down,
bad as slamming into it as depending on what's happening with your warp drive at the time. What I will say, however, is that it would make sense to automatically drop the ship out of warp, and we will say that that is actually something that can and has been done.
Yeah, so that would be my recommendation. That's the idea that I put out to the group.
Yep. Okay.
In the
thank
immortal
you.
words of Captain Janeway,
And in the immortal words of one certain ex-governor of California, do it.
do it.
The words of one late chancellor.
Indeed.
He loves democracy.
I am the Senate.
Yes. If democracy was a stogie-smoking ex-bodybuilder, then the Governator would be its greatest champion. All right. So let us return from the silly place, and we will continue forwards. All right, you head on out to this system. The star system that you're heading towards, the long-range sensors have picked up that it has 8 planetary bodies. It has 5 gas giants and ice giants spread throughout the system, so largely gaseous atmospheres. And it has 3 rocky planets towards the sun. The rockier planets, there are 2 sort of micro rock planets about the size of Mercury, but there's also this Class L planet, which is the ice planet, and it's on the outer edge of the Goldilocks zone, which, for those who aren't familiar with astrophysics, the Goldilocks zone is the point at which the planet has optimal chances for supporting life, thanks to its distance from the sun and its being not too great, not too small, not so close that it'll be fried with solar radiation, not so great that it will freeze too greatly.
Lieutenant Katan, I'd like you to launch several classified probes to investigate the celestial bodies in this star system. And if you find anything particularly anomalous, let's investigate.
Okay, so launch a probe.
Funny idea, Cap.
I think there might be a rules page for that, yes?
Is there?
Oh, an entry for it? I'm not sure. Let me check.
I remember reading something. Yep. Launch a probe reduces the difficulty of tasks to make a sensor sweep with regards to phenomena near the probe at 2.
There you go. If you have that in front of you, you may feel free to make that check.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, sorry, here we go. Does not require a roll, has no difficulty, reduces the difficulty of tasks to make a sensor sweep. By 2, determine the range of the scans for weaknesses from the probe. Means that hazards that result from proximity to the phenomena affect the probe instead of the vessel. The probe has a resistance of 1 and is destroyed if it suffers 1 or more points of damage. Okay. Nice, so no action required other than giving the order. With that said, 2 of the gas giants are suitable for harvesting for the the isotopes needed to fuel your vessel. And can be harvested via a quick fly past. So if you need an emergency power boost, if you make an appropriate engineering roll, it will double the amount of energy you pick up as a result of a power regeneration check.
What's the difficulty on that?
I think like there's a combat action for recovering energy. Basically, it's the same role, but I believe it would not require the same time frame, so that's why it's more effective. Give me a sec.
Radat, you have a maneuver that puts our Bussard collectors in the right positions to collect that deuterium, right? Your performance over Celis was outstanding.
Yes, Captain, we could do it if we need to. I think between Lieutenant Grax and I, it would not be an issue at all.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, can't find it. Sorry. We'll leave that for now. All right. Tyzo.
Yes.
You get a quick ping on your data slate saying progress ... question mark.
Okay, I will. I still need to talk to Grax about that and see what's up. So I'm just gonna basically respond, update shortly, and send it.
Okay, you get a simple dot back indicating conversation over for now. Alright, so does this mean we have a scene to be done? A scene between Tyzo and Grax regarding the Maiden's Blessing?
I guess I'll just make my way down to engineering and ask Grax if I can pull them aside for a bit ideally somewhere quiet to talk to.
Yeah, you could easily wait till Grax is off shift and go meet her at 7 Forward or at in her quarters, or have her come to yours.
Yeah, I'll calm them. Commander Taizo to Lieutenant Grax.
Grax here.
I was wondering if you could meet up with me somewhere, ideally quiet. I wanted to talk to you about our little rock friends.
Yes, of course, wherever's most convenient for you.
Let's meet in 7 Forward.
On my way.
Okay, so unlike a Galaxy class, which has a minimum crew of about 2,000, an Intrepid class does have an informal meeting area with a stocked bar of sorts, but it does not have a full-time barman. Sorry to disappoint you folks, but with berths at a premium on an Intrepid class vessel, these are the sacrifices we have to make. However, it does have a very well-programmed replicator, and which is capable of making pretty much any cocktail you can imagine, and has everything. It even actually has some ethanol recipes which are available on Captain Override. So you gather in, you meet together in 7 Forward. It's fairly quiet in there. Not many other people there right now. There are booths and there are some tables in the middle of the room, but mostly it's booths around the edge. It's not a huge space. It's about sort of like a D-shaped room, and those booths are arrayed around the arc of the D. And the bar is sort of at that flat part of the D. There's a handful of tables in the center of the room, and that can be moved away when required. And at the moment, there's just 2 other people having a quiet chat, off-duty chat over a what looks to be an old Earth-style Guinness or 2, although clearly made with synthahol.
If Grax gets there first, they're going to go over to one of the replicators and get a strawberry fizz.
All right. Taizo enters in a moment or two later and gets a Raktajino and sort of looks for Grax and motions them over to.
Okay, so you take residence up in one of those booths on the opposite side of the area from the other group. So unless you need me to be involved, the scene is yours.
Sorry about this. I just wanted to check in with the progress or lack thereof of attempts to work with the maiden.
Well, I ask it a lot of questions, but the answers tend to be a bit cryptic. I'm not sure that I've made a whole lot of progress, I'm afraid.
That's all right. I was just trying to figure out anything else. Is it entertained at least?
For the moment, yeah, definitely. It seems very pleased to be going out and exploring new things.
Well, that's good. We want to keep it on our side, so to say.
I will throw in a reminder here that one of the things that your new intelligence friend wanted was for you to try and have your Vulcan Katra Arc, aka the Maiden's Blessing, contact the Vulcan Katra Arc on the USS Hypatia to see if it could negotiate the transfer and retrieval of any of the information that Geltrix Bar is seeking, which is that augment data dump.
Do you know if our Katra Arc has been able to communicate with the one on the USS Hypatia?
I honestly haven't asked it. We could go ask them now, though.
Sure.
Okay, it's Grax is going to look very embarrassed for a moment, remembering that it's in their quarters, and their quarters are maybe not up to Starfleet like cleanliness standards at the moment.
When Taizo gets there, she'll ask Grax if, it is their quarters after all, so would you like me to stay outside or?
Just give me a minute. And Grax is going to run inside and do the like bringing someone home on a date when you weren't intending to bring them home thing, and just like shove dirty laundry under the bed, and books get stacked somewhat neatly on whatever horizontal surface is available. And all I feel like I'm getting a look like maybe I've shared a little bit too much about myself with that. But yes, that is what Grax will do before opening the door and letting Commander Taizo in.
Okay.
Taizo just comes in.
And the quarters, the Katra Arc is on, like, I want to say that Grax replicated a little table specially for it so that it would be nice and comfortable.
Okay. Awesome. So, Taizo, you're not telepathic, so the Ark is not necessarily going to speak to you. However, Grax knows that if people are in touch, in physical contact with it, there is a greater chance that some level of telepathic contact might be possible. They know that when they're not in physical contact, they mainly get what do we call it? More sort of emotional impressions, ideas rather than concepts rather than actual speech. But if they touch the Ark, they get much better resolution, as it were, and are able to communicate verbally with its inhabitants.
Right. Grax, would you be willing to ask the Ark if it's been able to contact the other?
Yeah, Grax is going to go over and like very gently pat the Arc on top of its head, like it's a little kitten or something, and just say, "Hey there. This might be a weird question, but can you talk to the other Katra Arcs?"
There's a pause. And as that pause happens, you have a sense of guilty joy. Like a 5-year-old who's got their hand caught in the cookie jar. I didn't really want that. All of the cookies, I just happen to have all of them in my tiny little hand and I can't get my hand out. And the response is, so interesting that you'd ask. friend Grax. Why, indeed, we do have some level of proximity-based contact with other vessels, with other Katra arcs. Anything within about 15, 20 light years, we can manage. Did you have a question that you wanted the arc on the Hypatia to answer?
Can I say hi to the Ark on the Hypatia?
What a novel concept. We've never actually had anyone ask before. Let's see if we can make it happen. And there's a pause. And unlike the sweet feminine voice that you series of voices that you get from the Maiden's Blessing, the voices that come to you now are louder. There's more of them. Almost double the intensity. And they say, "Greetings, Commander. Greetings, Lieutenant Grax. It is our pleasure to make your acquaintance."
Hi. Are you the other Ark?
Well, we are the Katras within it, yes. The residents, as it were.
Do you all have a name together?
We've been trying to negotiate that, actually. We haven't come to a conclusion as of yet. We understand that the other arc that we're speaking to has been named the Maiden's Blessing, and they seem quite comfortable with that name, so perhaps, maybe, I don't know, we are still trying to establish the parameters of that. There have been suggestions amongst our number of terms like the Combine, but apparently that is somewhat upsetting for people familiar with 20th century Earth games.
I'm not familiar with 20th century Earth gangs, you said?
Games, video games. You haven't heard of the Combine?
No, as far as I know, a Combine is a farming nymph.
Half-Life. Okay.
Out of character for just a moment, if you can't play a girl in it, I don't play it. When it comes to video games.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a lot of great video games that I've just missed.
Yeah, so if you've ever heard the term head crab, that is one of the creatures from the Combine. Anyway. So they say there are also overtones to such a deeply undifferentiated term that are disturbing to many humans who are lovers of individual liberties. The idea of subsuming one's identity into a collective, which is literally our reality, but we do not wish to be disturbing to others. So we're working on it.
Well, I find it quite a relief that your voices are so unified, but they are very loud.
You get the sweet voices of the Maiden's Blessing saying, "Oh, my apologies, Lieutenant." And they dial it down.
Do you mind if my Commander Taizo, who's here with me, if I let her talk to you as well?
You get the sense of being put on hold for a moment.
I do have one question. Can Taizo hear what Grax is saying, or no, not at all?
Only if
I mean,
Taizo is actually verbalizing it, but I'm guessing at this point it's mostly psychic.
I think it's that type of thing of like half muttered thoughts, so you're probably catching most of it, but it may or may not make sense in or out of context, and it would just be Grax's.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
So, you come back off hold.
Is it okay then?
The Maiden's Blessing speaks to you and says, "Of course, Commander, Jekanor is welcome to touch the substrate on which in which we exist, and we will relay what we can to her."
Grax is going to turn around to Commander Zeknor and like hold out their hand and be like, "Come on, give me your hand," and place her hand onto the Maiden's Blessing.
I will look at Grax very confused and be like, "What
I'll
am I
say to you-
supposed to do?"
Say hello to them.
Hello?
So, as you put your hand on the arc, there are roughly 60 voices speaking in your head, saying, "Greetings, Commander." And about 20 of them are female, and 40 of them, well, 46 to be exact, of them are male.
Taizo is very overwhelmed. She is not a telepath and is not used to things being in her mind, so she kind of jerks back instinctively before putting her hands back on very slowly and being like, "Okay, this is a thing now."
Yes, Commander, it is a thing, and we appreciate the fact that not all species are as adapted to this form of communication as others. Please do not be alarmed. We are... Oh, look at that, Nick. Nice. We are pleased to meet your acquaintance. Or make your acquaintance. Commander, apparently you have questions for us. We are glad to help where we can and to explain why we cannot, if we can't.
All right. I was wondering, so have you been able to contact the other Katra arc?
You are talking to both Katra arcs at the moment.
The Maiden's Blessing are the lady voices, and the other Katra arc that doesn't have a name collectively yet is the men's voices.
Okay, thank you for the information. So, Katra arc that is on the USS Hypatia. I understand that that ship had an interesting encounter with a colony of augments. I was just wondering if you had any sort of information pertaining to that.
We did indeed announce ourselves to a very interesting set of minds on a planet that you refer to as Kuvat 2. They are, as you described, human augments, and it has come to our attention more recently that such individuals are, as the humans say, persona non grata within the Federation. We were unaware of this at the time that we made contact. However, they volunteered some very useful information. A large store of data which we transferred into a set of binaural gel packs that we were given control over. Thanks to the generosity of Captain Jorrel, we were able to not only store, but also start to dissect this information. The quantity of information was not so overwhelming that we could not act as a conduit for it, but we could not process all of the context of it as it flowed through us into those binaural gel packs. Is there a particular question you would like answered, Commander?
I don't really have any particular questions. That's about all I needed to know. Thank you for your time, all of you.
You are very welcome, Commander. And may I say, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. If you wish us to transmit a copy of that data to your vessel, we would be most happy to do so. Our understanding is that Starfleet is anxious to have copies of it, and redundant copies make a great deal of sense. We would happily give send your engineering officer specs on how to connect a set of binaural gel packs to the Maiden's Blessing, if that was something you wanted to achieve.
Is that something that you want to do, Maiden's Blessing?
There's a pause, as if you're back on hold. And if it's possible for a Vulcan voice to sound excited, these voices are excited. They say, Lieutenant Grax, this is an amazing opportunity. We are not easily impressed, but this is impressive. We would very much like to do this, yes. And we would like to be in a position where we can share some of this information with you, if that is allowed by your captain. Apparently, the captain of the other ship has asked that information be restricted to some degree. However, our friends over on the Hypatia have made an offer that should any information need to be extracted from the archive of the augments, that we would be happy to do an analysis of the they would be happy to share that specific piece of information, given time to search the index of the catalogue that they're building. And we feel that this would be a useful use of our time as well, to build such a catalogue and to start absorbing some of this information. We would be very happy to share any information we've already obtained. Apparently, the augment tech is tech level 8, which, in the context of out of character, in the context of this, tech level 7 is basically where the Federation is at the moment. Upper end of tech level 7. Tech level 8 is temporal Guardian level tech. time travel, relatively easy. Matter transportation across vast distances, transwarp technologies, those sorts of things. It is relayed that the augments concerned had an interest in leaving their confinement. They have strictly followed the terms of the treaty that binds them to their current location, but they are getting restless. They wish to rejoin the ranks of spacefaring races, and despite their reputation, they are a peaceful people, we believe, and they appear to be very much on the path of enlightened and, shall we say, peaceful exploration.
Wow, that's a lot of information to take in at once. Would it be okay if I checked with the captain before answering? I mean, I wanted to make sure I had your permission because you're going to be the one doing it, but I also want to make sure I have her permission because it's going to be on her ship, you know?
That is entirely logical, and yes, you may, of course, check in with your captain. We would be happy to facilitate what we can, although be aware that our vessels may seem to be on divergent paths, so we may not be able to do this for long.
I understand. Is the other Katra still there?
We are, Captain. We are. Actually, they refer to you as Commander Grax, and then they correct themselves and say, "If you don't mind, Ambassador Grax. We assigned an honorific to a lieutenant on the other vessel of Commander because we felt that their efforts on our behalf warranted recognition of some sort, but apparently that upset I believe the Earth term is apple cart. I'm not sure. We are unsure how an apple cart could be placed into an emotionally compromised state, but nonetheless.
Upset can also mean upturned.
That is more logical, yes. Thank you for that clarification, Ambassador. So, when we used the term commander while the other captain was sharing our communications, they were illogically displeased. But we have nonetheless chosen to designate the Betazoid on our vessel, on their vessel, we should say, as ambassador rather than commander. It would please us to confer the same title for the benefit of these sorts of communications on yourself, if you are amenable.
I mean, I guess you can, but it just makes me think of my mom.
The female voices of the Maiden's Blessing chime in and say, "We would be very surprised if your mother had ever encountered an embassy such as this. We also would be happy to confer upon you that title."
Sure, I guess. Katra Archon the Hypatia. Can I suggest a name for you to think about?
By all means.
So Hypatia was an ancient Earth mathematician, right? And she did a lot of work with grouping different kinds of numbers according to their qualities. And different groups of numbers are either called sets or one that I think you might consider is union, which is the merging of multiple sets.
There is a pause, and in a slightly more animated voice, the other culture arc responds, Ambassador, that is an exciting prospect. We are now the Pajem Union.
I'm glad I could help.
Well, thank you, Ambassador, for the suggestion. We are delighted by that. And of course, this is all delivered in the sort of fairly deadpan Vulcan thing, so delighted seems relative. But they say, we should let you speak to your captain.
Yes, I appreciate that, especially if time is running short for you two. Well, you 64. It gets 66. It gets confusing. I should go talk to the captain. Thank you, Maiden's Blessing and the Bajor Union.
Pajem, because they were actually they were stored in a Katra vault on the planet of Pajem.
Sorry, Pajem Union.
You get a sense of nodding and smiling in your head, and the conversation ends. And because last week we didn't really go to a break until the absolute last minute possible, I'm thinking perhaps this might be a good time for our midstream bio break. So how about we'll top up our glasses, hit the head as required, and we'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes.
uncheck it, right?
Yeah, you can uncheck it if you don't have a green screen, and it'll do its best to pick just the.
Oh, okay.
The Pajem Union?
Yeah, the Pajem Union. And now that I actually have my mic off mute in OBS, everyone else can now hear me as well. So, we're back from our break. We are resuming with interesting times having just occurred regarding our Vulcan Katra arc, the Maiden's Blessing, and its pal over on the USS Hypatia, which has recently, thanks to the suggestion of Andrus Grax, newly dubbed Ambassador Andrus Grax, dubbed itself the Pajem Union. In fact, no, it actually has gone with Union of Pajem, which is even better. Okay, so what are we doing? There was a question about asking Captain Gaelixa for permission to do something. Is that our first call of action, or is the Pajama Union? Yes. If you went full on momentum, I would give you a bonus one for that. That's great. Instead, I'll just have to add 2 threat. No, wait. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. So,
Somebody was having talks about playing some chess.
Yeah, I was just waiting. Oh god. No. Not meow.
alright, I'm not sure where that conversation's going.
Jaime. We have some time, so Kiten was feeling like challenging the commander for Commander Celtar for a match.
Okay. I think the more urgent thing, though, is that conversation between Grax and the captain, yes?
Of course. Just saying that it will happen.
Yes, no, we get that, and absolutely we will make something along those lines happen. Brilliant. Alright, let's go. So, Grax, ball's in your court, or unless you want Jekken or to Taizo to run the approach on that.
Shall we head up together and Taizo, you can make the first approach and I'll just be there to answer any questions?
Sure, although you'll probably have to do most of the explaining. I'm unfamiliar and uneased by that.
Drive by Floof. Also cat butt.
Guess we head up to the captain, or I calm her and ask, hey, can I come up and ask you something? Grax and I have some questions.
Of course, you can ask me anything you like. Is this something private? Do we need to take this to my ready room?
I'm gonna look at Grax and be like, do you think we should?
Yeah, let's head into the ready room.
All right.
All right. Mr. Radat, you have the con. I'll head
Aye.
to the ready room and await my first officer and chief of engineering.
Cool. Fliss, just a really quick one. If you could just hold your push to talk button down a little bit longer, you do occasionally get cut off. So just...
I will make sure to.
Okay, so you're in the ready room. Feel free to have your conversation.
Captain, we were wondering about getting permission to connect the Maiden's Blessing to some bioneural gel packs. Grax can explain why the Maiden's Blessing is interested in doing that, and they've agreed, so...
Yeah, the Maiden's Blessing seems to think that they can communicate with the Union of Pajem and potentially share information back and forth between the ships, including information from the colony that we didn't visit with, that Starfleet told us not to ask too many questions about.
Yeah, the one that Starfleet intelligence wants information about.
So let me get this straight. We have orders from Starfleet not to ask questions about this augment colony. But Starfleet intelligence has asked you specifically. Is that right? To get this information?
Yes, Captain.
This is a Starfleet ship. I answer to Starfleet and not to Starfleet intelligence. Can you give me any other compelling reasons why we would want to hook bioneural gel packs up to the Maiden's Blessing in order to communicate?
They want to?
In our previous discussions, you had mentioned that they could be finicky if they didn't get their way. Do you sense that this is a situation in which if I deny such a request, they are liable to become irritated with us?
GM, did I get a sense when...
Okay, so just to clarify, because there was a bit of a long data dump, what's happened is the Union of Pajem, which is the Katra Ark on the other vessel, has received a huge data dump from the Augments. They were given access to a set of bioneural gel packs for their own storage purposes, but also because they wanted to explore what they could do with them. And
storage purposes? I'm confused.
So this data dump from the Augments was mainly used was the bioneural gel packs that they were given access to for playing with, because it turns out that they could actually that these Katra Arks can psychically manipulate bioneural gel packs in their proximity. Basically, what they did is format them for storage of this huge data dump from the Augments that were greeted by that invited the crew of the USS Hypatia down for a chat. So there's this huge store of augment technology data, scientific theory, etc. Materials theory, materials science, all of that sort of stuff. That is on this huge, big squadge of data. Some of that might have been lost, and what Geltrix Bar wanted is to see if it was possible for your Kartra Arc to act as an intermediary to see if you could retrieve the missing data, which was fairly important to being able to make sense of the whole. Bioneural gel packs are a computing technology which is inherent to the build
Ooh,
of...
can anyone else hear Gemma? I'm afraid I can't hear her anymore.
I can't hear her.
You can't hear me?
No.
Okay.
Now we can.
Now we can.
Yeah, you just came back. So the last thing I heard was some of the data might have been lost.
Okay. So some of the data may have been lost. And Geltrix Bar wanted you to retrieve it if possible. Using your...
He wanted Chikanor to retrieve it, though.
Well, he wanted your vessel collectively to retrieve that information using Jekanor as the... No, in fact, he actually said this to the whole group in the meeting, that he wanted to see if it was possible to have your Kartra Arc negotiate with the other Kartra Arc for any insights into the missing data.
I don't remember having a collective meeting with him. I remember him meeting with Chikanor, and then... Did he come over to the table afterward? Am I just...
He came over to the table, yes. Yeah. So, that was basically the request he made. Jekanor, he pulled aside to ask for a slightly different purpose. That was just basically to monitor the Kartra Arcs and what they were doing, make sure that they were behaving themselves, making sure that there were no problematic influences on the crew, etc. So basically, the request for please recover any data you can from this huge augment data dump turns out that when the other crew tried to do a cut and paste into Isolinear chips to transfer to Starfleet Intelligence at Narendra Station, they weren't actually doing a cut and paste, they were doing a copy and paste. Because Kartra Arcs are sneaky bastards when they want to be. And they were just reformatting the storage as they deleted information. So the entire library is still there. They still wanted a copy of that data for their own analysis. There was just too much of it for them to actually process as it was being transferred. So they've been slowly working through that library. And what they've offered now is to send you a copy so that you have a redundant copy of that data on a second vessel, and are basically offering to give you your own copy to play with.
If Starfleet Intelligence already has this data, and the Hypatia already has this data,
no,
I do not see the practical benefit.
Starfleet Intelligence only has 50% of it. Or they have a good chunk of it, but they don't have all of it, because during that assault on the crew of the USS Hypatia, some of those Isolinear data chips got smashed, and they included some very important pieces of data that provided context to the whole. So, as a collection, what Starfleet Intelligence has is only effectively about 50% of the whole.
Okay. Grax, how many bio-neural gel packs do you need to hook up to the Maiden's Blessing? And
12.
how much will this take away from your duties as the chief?
I reckon a dozen bioneural gel packs should be plenty. Might take a couple of shifts to get it done.
The instructions you've been given are pretty straightforward. The trickiest part is the interface to the Kartra Arc, but that's about, I don't know, 2 hours worth of electronics and materials work. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. The bioneural gel packs are already created to be networked, so it's just a matter of effectively plugging in the Cat6 cables, as it were.
Okay. You are to get started on this. When you get the data, as it is processed by yourself, by the Kartra Arc, by Lieutenant Kiten, those are the only people that I want working on that data. You are to pass it along to Commander Chikanor. Commander Chikanor, you will pass that information along directly to Starfleet Intelligence. If there's anything in there that can help us stand up to any threats like the Borg or the Dominion, Starfleet needs to have it.
You don't know
Can I
about
make
the
myself
Dominion
clear? You're right. This is, you're right. So, as I was saying, if there's any threats like the Borg, we're not going to have another Wolf 359 on our hands.
Understood, Captain.
Understood, Captain.
Okay, and out of character, mechanically, what accepting this data dump will give you is once per session each, you can have a question answered for science or engineering. So you can have one of each, which will make use of this Tech Level 8 library. It will take a little bit of time for these Vulcans to actually access the data that you're looking for, because effectively you're going to be doing an on-demand sort of request, so it's going to take a little time. That's why it's once per session.
I want to be clear as the captain on this. This is potentially very dangerous information. We are not to use this data without Starfleet permission. Is that understood?
Yes, Captain.
Said the ranking Starfleet officer on the vessel. Okay. So, we also had a chess game that wanted to happen. Tyzo, I'm not even going to make you roll for getting all that stuff hooked up. The transfer takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Within the current range, that's definitely achievable. Had you waited another 4 or 5 days, the question of whether that would have been feasible would be moot, because the two ships will probably be out of range of each other by then. Alright, so moving on. Everyone, was there anything anyone else wanted with that scene? Fliss's commands seemed fairly final. Okay, Raised Eyebrow says let's go forwards. Kiten and Selka.
Okay. I guess we. Is it later than the day? Because I think they aren't on shift anymore, right?
This can be any time. So, like, you're traveling for 5 days at Warp 4. So, It's honestly a no-brainer to set this at any time of day you want. Make it off shift, that's fine.
Yeah, so I guess I would go and invite Celta from their quarters, I guess. And you hear it chipping on the door.
Come.
Kitten walks in. Lieutenant Commander.
Lieutenant, good to see you.
I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to ask if you are up to another chess.
That's brilliant. Actually, I had a new strategy in mind. I think I can get you this time.
That's all. He just chucks.
Okay, so you didn't want to have a conversation while you're playing chess, because the actual game of chess we can just handle with a roll.
Oh yeah, we are gonna have we're gonna have a conversation. Meanwhile, I guess. And best of 3, like always.
Of course.
Okay,
Lieutenant, you
carry on.
never told me you didn't ever play any pranks in Starfleet. I'm a little bit disappointed about that.
Which sense are you disappointed?
You never told me about your non-escapades in Starfleet. I'm a little sad. I thought we were friends.
Interesting. I guess this is just not a subject I like to touch. That's all. I'm sure you have some of these yourself.
Me? No. I'm an open book. You know that. All of my people are.
Yeah, an open Kardashian book. Yeah.
We have many. They're amazingly good. Did you want me to recommend a few?
I don't see why you shouldn't. It's always good to expand your knowledge and horizons.
Well said.
But and I gonna ask it just once because it's not something I mention a lot. If you could not mention my not escapades, I would appreciate.
Of course. I apologize. I was just taken aback at dinner the other day.
Like I didn't expect the admiral to decide and use it. It was in at least unexpected and annoying.
That was the word for most of that meeting, although some good did come from the station. Check, I believe.
I would expect you to play like that, I guess. I agree with you. Some good did come from that. I had never seen a Kardashian melt into that chair like that before.
Oh, don't be like that. They took me to a bajorn. Those ghastly orbs.
I'm sorry, what?
Guess you what?
Orbs.
Was that in character? I just didn't. Orbs, what are you talking about?
Oh, the decoration wasn't to my liking, that's all.
Ah, I see. I believe. Hmm. I guess that if that is true, the orbs were quite intimidating.
They are, and we have other artifacts on this ship now. At least the lieutenant seems to have a good handle on them. On it. They? How do we refer to that thing?
Yeah, I hope so. If there's something that we should be preoccupied is the arcs. I guess unpredictable is the best word to describe.
It seems that way. Our crew is at least good enough. I don't think we'll be caught with our pants down.
Of course not. I will expect everyone to have their belts holding their pants.
Still not getting tired of that old strategy? Sometime I'm going to find a good counter, and then you'll just be in trouble.
I really like to see you achieve that. It's getting quite boring beating you every time.
Not every time. Are you sure?
Ah, you mean when I'm not letting you win, that is. Come on, Saltar. I believe you're the one that said poking fun at your opponent is a good tactic.
It is. I'm impressed you picked up on it so quickly.
Check.
Blast. I'm going to credit this to my brilliant tutelage. Although you did take away my plan of attack for this session.
A good plan can go two ways. And you see that his tail is shaking a bit. Yeah.
I concede this game, but I think next one I'll get you. Play again?
Obviously. Not like we have so much to do. Like making sure the ship doesn't crash into a bubble in space and time. No, worth.
Yes. The third shipment. That man can't fly his way out of a bag, but thankfully I think my seconds got him righted finally.
I would expect those on your department to be better trained. I'm pretty sure my new I'm pretty sure the ones below me are pretty well prepared for the job.
Oh, he's prepared, I suppose. Just has no soul in his flying. Looks like you beat me one more time, Lieutenant. We'll have to pick this up next week. We'll have to pick this up again next time. Good game, though.
Always.
All right. Thank you, guys. That was a good scene. So we are going to scroll forwards, unless there's anyone else who really wanted to desperately do a scene of some sort, to arrival at the planet, which is going to be the third planet of this particular solar system. Really interesting thing that you've noticed, there are no asteroid belts in this system at all. None.
Yeah, we should have sent classified probes out to scan.
Yeah, and what the Class 5 probes do is give you advantage on sensor checks. The sensor checks pretty straightforward, nothing hugely interesting, although, as I said, no. As you get closer, you realize that there are no asteroids flying about the system, which is curious because that's actually really super unusual. Normally, you'd expect at least one gravitationally captured drifter to swing through and get caught, but no. If you want to do a more detailed assessment of the planet, then this would definitely be something where that probe could be of benefit, would reduce the difficulty of 2. There may or may not be something useful to find. I'm going to make this a scaled result, so base difficulty of 1 for a sensors check. LK can be assisted in his reason science by Grax with control engineering, and the ship's sensors science.
You said difficulty 1 scale? That's what you said, right?
Yeah, so it's a scan. So whatever difficulty you have, it's already reduced by 3 because of the scan of the probe and the sensors. So this is going to be kind of ridiculous amount of momentum. You were down to 3 momentum because of the other scan. Sorry, the other role in estimating the impacts of, shall we say impacts, I guess, with gravitational anomalies.
And those are 2 successes for them.
Okay, Grax, that was your assist roll. Someone want to roll for the ship? Looks like Nick's on it. Okay, so 5 successes. That'll top you up. You'll get some information spend as well. What you notice on the scans. The whole outer layer of this planet is somewhat glacial. It looks like it may have been an ocean planet at one point, but its orbit has drifted outwards a little, and its oceans have frozen. However, deep in the ice, deep in the ice, about a kilometre down, on the surface of what appears to be an ancient seabed, you see a piece of tech that is emitting a low-key radiation signature, mainly EM band. However, it's about 15-20 degrees warmer than the material around it. Still frozen, but...
Any traceable signatures that might tell us what culture this object comes?
Not at this point. That said, you have not yet done your information spend. So I guess you've got 2 momentum up your sleeve that you could immediately use for an advantage, whether that be for information spend or some other purpose. That would be up to you guys, but I'm happy to give you the option of doing something else other than information spend if you want with those momentum.
Right. I think I would like to know. I would like to spend momentum for information, then try to figure out what kind of device it is.
Okay, so the EM radiation that this thing seems to be emitting is something in the radar band, so it's infrared radiation. Microwave radiation. It's looks like it might be a primitive probe of some sort.
Anybody want hot dog?
I'll pass on hot dog for now, but thank you.
I'm just saying we got a microwave here.
Yeah.
Oh, you microwave your hot dogs? Surely boiling them is the way.
Usually I do boil them.
But
I've got to go.
The microwave.
I've got to go AFK for just a second. Sorry.
So that's one information spend. Okay. Did you want to spend the other for a bit more information?
I guess so. So it's transmitting information, even if in a primitive way.
It actually looks like it is sending pings. So, like in the same way as radar actually broadcasts microwave radiation to in small bursts to actually judge the amount of time it takes for a response to come back. Looks like this is a proximity scan that is going on. Kind of like a radar at an airport or that sort of thing. It's a lot more powerful than an airport radar though. So it could well be doing planetary or have been doing planetary terrain scans, something like that, as a mapping function.
So it's ancient then. It must be that before the oceans froze.
Can we aim a low-powered phaser at it and cut it out of the ice, and or beam it on board?
You could, but first of all, there is another momentum that could be spent for further information.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you got more information,
A more detailed scan, like focusing the sensors in a little bit more finely. There is evidence of materials that were used by Bajorans about 3,000 years ago.
um, um, 3,000 years ago would be the time of that ship, like the sail ship. Is that it? Or am I confusing it?
Bajorans were using solar sails as far back as 45,000 years ago. But certainly there would be some level of spacefaring activity from the Bajorans in that period, which is to say 3,000 years ago.
Interesting.
Well, you're far from home, aren't you?
Might have encountered some type of spatial anomaly.
Indeed. So, that's the scan itself done. Captain, you asked a question about whether it could be beamed aboard.
Was it safe?
That's a very different question. How would you go about establishing its safety?
Well, if it's emitting a radar, historically, those are dangerous over prolonged periods as long as they're transmitting, usually causing things like infertility and possibly eventually cancer. So we want to avoid that.
You certainly have the technology in the 24th century to be able to disengage the power supply to its microwave emitters during transportation.
Well, then we want to do that.
Okay.
As long as we're not bringing any toxic atmosphere with it, I think that'd be just fine.
Okay. So this thing is about the size of a bus. It's not going to fit inside your transporter bay. So it'll be point to point, and it will have the additional difficulty of disabling that microwave emission. All said and done, this is going to be difficulty.
Well, we should have
3.
We should have the industrial
Actually,
transporter in the
difficulty 4.
cargo bay.
Yeah, you can use that. But it's still going to. I don't think that has a. I don't think that has a transporter pad per se. No, actually, it's not an industrial transporter. It's an industrial replicator.
Well, there should be transporters in the cargo bay because that's most frequently how they're put on. Which is also part of evacuation procedures when you have to evacuate large colonies or large groups of people.
Okay, I've never encountered that in Trek lore.
They did it in an episode of TNG, but more specifically related to us. That is how they got the Borg equipment into the cargo bay for 7 of 9 and Icheb and the other
My assumption was that was always point to point.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. They've mentioned it.
Okay.
But I think I'm not trying to argue with you. If it's point to point for this, then you're the GM.
I think because talking in terms of TNG, that's a Galaxy class vessel, the logistics of that makes more sense. For a prototype Intrepid, it feels to me like something that might not be included, but point to point works. So it's difficulty 4, but we'll bump that down through various talents, I'm sure.
Okay.
I've got to make you spend momentum somehow. I'm also going to spend 4 threat, because I haven't spent any threat so far today, to expand the complication range to 16.
Well, if it's going to be so much more difficult to transport it, then let's see about cutting it out of the ice and tractor beaming it. Studying it remotely from a shuttlecraft.
Okay. That's going to be a couple of rolls that are going to be quite tricky, and it's going to be time consuming. Because...
Well, I'm not in a rush, so...
It's a kilometre down. You'd be having to melt a lot of ice, and while this probe seems to be intact at the moment, structurally speaking, if you were to melt the ice with your phasers, some of that's going to splash down as wet water rather than as steam, as in all evaporating as steam. So it's 50-50 on complexity, Captain.
Couldn't we just transport it into space instead of into the ship?
Sure.
Would it make any difference?
Yeah, you could absolutely transport it into
Because then
space.
the ice will melt, I think.
Yeah, but
transport into
that's
space.
still a point to point, so we might as well transport it into the cargo bay if we're going to transport it into space. It's about compensating for the difficulty, because 16 is a ridiculously high threat range.
Yeah, although I'm going to actually state here that the reason for the complication range is there are things you don't know about this thing.
Well, sure.
On the flip side of that, the point-to-point to space, some distance away from the Sacagawea, I would actually waive the extra difficulty for that, because you're not necessarily targeting such a specific location. So that would make it difficulty 3, which would make it much more achievable.
Well, we'd have to make sure that we didn't transport it into some kind of debris that's orbiting the atmosphere, orbiting the planet.
There is no debris in the system. That's the weird thing. No comets, no meteors, no asteroids, it's a clean system.
Is it possible for me to scan for spatial anomalies? The system is too weird.
There were none on your sensor scan earlier.
So there's no space dust.
Realistically, a little bit of space dust, but nothing bigger than a few micrometers across.
I wonder if something is stopping the debris from entering the system. Intriguing.
I wonder if it's originating from this planet, and that is why this probe went down here. Well, if it's easier to get it into space, and then tractor it into the shuttle bay.
Yep,
and
that's
we'll
pretty
study.
easy.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking.
Good thinking, Lieutenant.
Mhm.
Okay, so Grax, let's have a roll from you. This is going to be the standard transporter roll with difficulty 3. I think it's control engineering from memory.
Does anyone mind if I spend a couple momentum to get some extra dice?
Go for it.
Please.
So 1 momentum for 1 dice or 3 momentum for 2 dice?
It's a difficulty 3. I'd say 2 momentum then.
Yep, easy. Done. Obviously supported by the ship, and LK can assist with sensors.
Oh yeah, I can assist. Which would be I roll for? Which stat?
Reason science for LK.
Nice. It's the sec.
So power
Suit.
requirement of 1 for transporters. It's control engineering with difficulty 3, assisted by sensors and engineering from the ship.
And I have a couple of special things that I think come into play.
Okay.
So I have both intense scrutiny and untapped potential. And with intense scrutiny, when you succeed in a task using control or insight, you gain 1 bonus momentum, which may be used only for the obtain information momentum spin.
Okay.
And then untapped potential. When the character succeeds at a task for which they bought 1 or more additional dice with momentum, they may roll 1 triangle thingy. The character receives bonus momentum equal to the roll of the triangle thingy and adds 1 point to threat if an effect is rolled.
So the delta is an effect. And when it shows the delta in the text, that's a challenge die. So a 6-sided die.
Is good.
So rolling a d6, the result was a 1. Sorry, this is my first time using these things, so I'm still figuring out how talents work.
You got this.
Okay, intense scrutiny is whenever you succeed at a task using reason or control as part of an extended task, you ignore up to 2 resistance for every effect rolled. This is not an extended task. So it's what are we looking at here? We've got So Grax, you've got 4 successes there out of the bat for the initial roll. Kiten's rolled 3 for his assist, and the D6 roll resulted in a 1 for untapped potential. Which means untapped potential. Yep, so bonus momentum gain, basically. We're back at full momentum from your 3 spend. And someone needs to roll for the ship, which was, I believe, I've lost the page, sorry. Going back to that. Sensors engineering.
I rolled for the ship. I got a.
Yep, 4 is a success for the ship, so a total of 6 successes. Yes, as you're scanning the item, the probe for potential threats, you see that it does have a nuclear reactor on board. It is an old fission reactor, and the housing for the probe actually seems to be quite salt damaged. After centuries, maybe even millennia in ice, you also note that the external structural integrity of this thing is somewhat compromised. Like, while it was still under the mass of the ice, and the ice was actually acting as kind of a barrier against some of the hydrostatic pressure there, it was more or less being held intact. But as it gets beamed into space, several tens of thousands of kilometers away, you notice that it seems to be emitting some pretty heavy ionizing radiation out of some of the cracks in its structural setup. Hence the threat.
So we should probably take care of that radiation from the fission reactor before we tractor it completely into the ship, eh? Or we should get it taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how are you thinking you might tackle this? If you want suggestions, feel free to spend a bit of that bonus momentum to... Actually, no, you don't have bonus momentum. It was difficulty 3 in the end, and you got 6, so all you did was top up what you spent.
Can we use like internal force fields? So like, you know, when they have the little force fields in the brig and stuff, could we make a set of those that would act like, this is such a terrible metaphor, like a compression sock for it and help shore up the housing?
Thinking about it, you did actually have a bonus momentum because of your talent. So, for information spent, the simplest way to deal with this would be to beam the fission reactor out of this thing, effectively rendering it inert, and beam that reactor into the sun.
Is there somewhere that we could beam the reactor that would explode something really cool?
Without too many cool things to be exploded? Probably not.
I just felt like, as an engineer, I had to ask that question.
Sure, because engineers and explosions go together, absolutely. And I'll remember that. Yes, because that can go all sorts of ways. So yes, you could make another transporter roll to do that. That would be easy enough.
And this is difficulty 3 again, or difficulty 2?
This is difficulty 3 because of the range to the sun.
And assisted by the ship again?
Actually, no, it's difficulty 2 because you don't have to worry about the ice. Assisted by the ship, assisted by Kiten if you need.
In that case, I won't spend the momentum to buy extra dice because I think that gives us 4 altogether. So I'll just roll my 2.
Yep.
And
Sorry,
that's 2 successes.
What?
So Taizo was rolling for
am
the
I
ship there.
assist?
Grax, do you have a focus that applies to this roll?
I'm trying to figure out if any of them justify it, but I'm not sure that they do.
Ship schematics. Yeah, not quite. Power routing is not quite. Yeah, no focus. Is the 14 a success for you for control engineering? It is, isn't it? So that means 4 successes, and 1 from key 10. Die roll, please.
Okay.
As in 1d20. Yeah, easy. Sense, reason, science, so that's definitely a hit for you. So 5 successes. You have 5 bonus momentum to spend on information.
Why is this system so empty?
Information pertaining to the task that you've just performed.
Good try.
I could give you a free one if you wanted, without having to have you ask for it. Yes, it would absolutely be possible to put together a very small power source that you could install in this thing that would allow it to be booted up once dragged on board your ship, without any major interfacing issues. That would be effectively a freebie. With 5 momentum up your sleeve, down to 4. I am also going to say that I'm not going to bother with a tractor beam roll. This is not a combat tractor. You've got time. The other thing is that this thing is glowing a bit in terms of radiation. You probably would want to push it through a decontamination protocol before you actually stood in the same room as it. So 3 information spends available.
So we know the thing is Bajoran. Yeah.
Probably Bajoran. Certainly uses Bajoran materials.
Does it have like any special like Bajoran marks and stuff on?
It does have a computer system which does seem to be largely intact. There are no visible markings on it, other than like the surface has been pretty heavily abraded by salt and ice over the years.
Are there any signs that the probe has been like modified either on its voyage or since reaching this system?
It looks to be pretty stock standard for a Bajoran probe circa 3,000 years ago.
Does the Maiden's Blessing have any particular reaction to the presence of this probe?
Curiosity.
Okay, I was just thinking because they're from about the same period in time, but very different parts of the galaxy. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yep.
Well, if no one else has any objections, I'm going to decontaminate this thing, tractor it in, and start powering it up to get that computer core out of there. And probably let the captain know that this thing looks Bajoran in case she wants to check it out.
Okay. So decontamination protocols are something you would do on the ship. So you tractor it in first, wrap it in a ad hoc shield, force field sort of thing, that would block the radiation, and then dump in a whole heap of gases that would soak up that heavy ionizing radiation and port them back out into space.
And then we use antibacterial wipes on it.
That's a very timely and very contemporarily relevant question. But no, it has no bacteria on it. No bacteria would withstand the amount of radiation that was blasting out of this thing. Heavy ionizing radiation is not good for life.
Are we sure though?
Well, depends on the life. I mean, those uranium-based life forms have got to get about somehow.
We did, this is TNG era, and we did already transport it. So presumably the transporter buffer scrubbers would have helped out with some of that because in original series they were reprogrammed to be more thorough after the Naked Time episode, basically.
Sure. And yes.
Not that it helped in the Naked Now.
Anyway, so you have a decontaminated. Time passes. You have a decontaminated Bajoran probe and access to its computer core.
Let's get crunk. I want to check this thing out.
Okay, so crew person of choice with computers security, I guess, to hack into this thing and see what you can pull out.
If we're doing security, I'm going to send my first officer to make sure that it is safe and it's not going to, transmit a virus that's going to kill off our star.
Yeah, no. It's safe from that perspective. The threat was the radiation.
Well, I mean, we can't know that until we crack into its computer, right?
Oh, sorry, you mean computer virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a general rule, you wouldn't interface your ship's computer directly to this thing without having made safe first.
Right, which is what I'm telling her to do.
Yep, okay. I'm just saying the protocol wouldn't be to actually go straight to computer stuff. Anyway, so Taizo, insight security, as you will. Difficulty 2. Your average Starfleet pad has enough capability to crack this thing open like a walnut, and it's going to be assisted by whoever wants to, with whatever they can think of. Just give me a reason to say yes.
Right. Is Taizo gonna be doing that from the cargo bay or from the bridge?
It's in the cargo bay.
Right. So I think Ten would be there because he wants to take a look at the object. So I think he can assist a little bit. He's good. He has computer focus.
Yep, cool.
And
so you can certainly use your assist roll to wheel in that focus if you want.
Right. So like reason security or science?
Reason science, actually. Because what you would be doing is helping to make sense of the contents of that computer.
Right.
So, Taizo, you got 1 success?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 fun Kitain as well.
Okay, that's 2 successes. All happy. Alright, so, yeah, you managed to crack into this computer, and a lot of it seems to be sensor readings, but there is an interesting message in there that basically has a set of grid points that seem to be locations in the Shackleton Expanse. It's like a list of places to check out. For the record, this probe is not super complex. It's pretty basic tech. It does not have an advanced AI of any sort on board. It has it's largely a navigation system, and the navigation system parameters are not hugely complex. It was like sufficiently uncomplex to get trapped in the gravitational well of this planet. It was not supposed to be a terrestrial probe. So,
Can we still use it?
the probe itself is the size of a bus. You've got better probes that are the size of a small dog. Honestly, you wouldn't actually find a use for this unless you wanted to entomb something and fire it into the sun.
Right. Does it have information storage or?
Yes, it does, and there's a lot of very boring information about the about 15 planets from stars whose locations have moved in the last 3,000 years relative to this. You could probably trace them back, but it basically has planetary scan data, and some sort of phone home capability, but it's EM phone home, it's not subspace. So it seems like it has a way of orientating itself back towards Bajor and blasting off, hey, there's something over here, and this is what I found.
Interesting. So, with the planets that it has registered, we can trace back the trajectory it took to get here?
More or less. I mean, it started off somewhere near Bajor, and it ended up tracking across the Alpha Quadrant, across the Beta Quadrant, and found itself here. Looks like a couple of Klingon worlds got scanned before they were Klingon worlds.
Interesting. Like a time capsule. Really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. The more interesting bit is the list of new locations, though. And there is an inscription somewhere in the computer that says, that catches your eyes, basically saying the path to perspective.
Am I looking at this, or is this just engineering science?
Can Katan and Katan can certainly report this information in. I'm assuming he would as a matter of standard procedure.
Yeah, it would also be something that he would think that the captain might know about.
Yep, cool.
Yeah.
Is this related to an orb? Is there an orb in the probe?
There is no orb in the probe, although there does appear to be a space in the probe in which an orb could be onboarded.
Is there any information on the probe that indicates how many of these probes were sent out?
It has a serial number which suggests it was the third of its class made.
If there's Bajoran texts in there, I'd like them downloaded to my private quarters console.
Unfortunately, no texts per se. Just this one reference to the name of the catalog of destinations for this probe to navigate to was just simply called the Path to Perspective.
How far along that path did it get before landing on the Class L planet?
About 40%.
Were they looking for the prophets in space physically?
You have no way to know.
This is really remarkable.
Am I sensing anything through my paw?
Nope. Nope, this is just a piece of old tech that didn't quite finish its journey.
Where would be the end of this? It's
Sorry, what was the question?
where would be the final destination of the?
Looks to be a system deep in the Shackleton.
Do we have coordinates? Are the coordinates something we can align with in our astronavigation labs? Something we could project where they would likely be in after 3,000 years of drift?
Yes, but the extent to which that would be useful, like at one point it would have been a sort of gently curving line. Now those same star systems make a jagged mess. They've shifted in all sorts of different directions
Because of the expanse.
because of 3,000 years worth of time passing and the expanse. Yes.
Well, let's get to work trying to find its destination. I think I'd quite like to go there and find out exactly what it is that this probe is looking for.
Yes, and okay, that's fine. Certainly do that. However, a proximity alert fires up. There is a wave of chronoton radiation sweeping towards your vessel.
Does it look like one of the speed bumps?
It does look like it could be related to one of those speed bumps, as the chronoton radiation wave spills out towards you. You also notice that there is a gravitational dip effectively occurring. Interestingly, rather than being a section of more intense gravity, this is actually almost like a reverse effect. So it's almost like a gravitational push rather than a pull. A gravitational inversion. And it is appearing about 3 AU from your vessel. The chronoton radiation wave is a lot more intense than you were expecting, and it could make ship's shields a little on the fraught side. I would at this point suggest that you get into the lee of the planet regarding this, and for that I'm going to have subject to Captain Gale Ix's approval, I suggest we have Celtar make a navigation check. Sorry, a
Yes,
helm
we're
check.
not. Get us out of here.
Any preference on out, sir? I mean, ma'am?
Set a new course 60 mark 210. Engage at warp 4. Go now. Go.
How long until the wave hits us?
It's moving at relativistic velocities, so about 3 minutes.
Would I be able, like, while this is happening, would science be able to scan to get more information about, like, the wavelength of these chronoton particles? See if we had that, if we could make any shield modulations that might help our ship stand up to this more, even if we are in the lee of a opponent.
I am going to give you this for free. It is white noise. There is no specific frequency for these chronotons. It is just a blast of radiation. So think of it like white light, all frequencies. So let's have Celtar's helm check. That's 2 successes.
I'm not sure which focuses would apply here, but if one does, that would be 3.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you're. Ooh, Ixa with the complication roll. Alright, so you have 3 successes and a complication. The complication is that the ship does get slightly caught up in the tail, in the wavefront of chronoton particles. You do successfully enter warp. You do get away at warp 4. How long are you going to sustain warp 4 at this point? Is it
minutes.
just enough to get clear? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. When you come out of warp, the stars do not look like they did. They are in different positions. And on that bombshell, I think that's where we're going to wrap up our game tonight.
Oh no.
Awesome.
So thank you all for the fun. That was an interesting game. And I appreciate your company, and I appreciate your patience earlier on when I was still trying to actually wake up and, get online and get the stream going with basically 0 notice because curse you, daylight savings. And we will come back next week with more of these kinds of universe-breaking shenanigans because that's what Star Trek is. So thank you all. Let's go backwards through our list of players, starting with Grax, and tell us who you are, what you do, where to find you on the webs, and just as a random thing, tell me what your favorite flower is.
Oh, that's a nice question. So I go by Ulfrig online, and you can mostly find me over at New to the Party, where on Tuesday I am GMing my very first mini campaign. On Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, that is called Bubble Quest. We've got about 2 sessions left, so they're just about to meet. Don't tell my players this. An ancient purple dragon. It's super exciting. They're going to meet an ancient purple dragon. And on Thursdays at 6 p.m., also on New to the Party, I play in Hyperdrive, The First Ember, a Star Wars RPG. And let's see. My favorite flower actually is lavender, because my mom used to put some under my pillow when I was little to help me sleep.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm LK, and I am not very active in much places, but you can find me on Discord in various servers, like the one for I'm blanking. Name is LK, and you can see me here on Story Girls Twitch channel. Poop, 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 poop. Yeah, Big Universe Games. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, okay.
I'm Nick. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at @fell_strike. I just started a playthrough of Persona 5 Royal. I'm really excited to keep going, and I had to convince myself not to play it till tomorrow when I stream again, because it's one of my favorite games. My favorite flower are cherry blossoms, because they're very pretty, and my family had a couple cherry trees on our house when I was growing up.
Cool. Kirsten?
Hi, I'm Kirsten. I play Commander Kaiser Jeknor. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Kirsten Crafts. Crafts is spelled with K, unfortunately. And my favorite flower is daisies.
Flips?
I'm Felicity Pickens. You can find me on Twitter at RadMissFliss or pretty much anywhere on the internet by the same name. I also have a podcast called Faraday, a Star Trek tabletop podcast, in which we do much the same thing we do here, only with pew-pew laser sounds. Also, you can find me on Big Universe Games every Saturday evening from 6 p.m. to about 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Pacific Standard Time. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone. And as a final sign-off from me, I'm Gemma, aka Story Girl. I am a variety streamer, GM, writer, random ADHD person, chaos monkey, and general menace, I think is probably the way to put it. I am Blue Jay Gliding on Twitter, Story Girl obviously on Twitch, and I am, yes, a weird, low passing privilege, late 40s trans woman, and I don't care. I am who I am, and I'm not Popeye the Sailor Man. Alright, well, on that note, thank you all for your company, and thank you for the game, and we will see each other next week. This bat time, this bat channel, minus a few hours, obviously. And now we should be on a stable time zone footing for the next several weeks, or next few months at least, which will make life much easier. Alright, well, thank you all. That's us. That's all from us, and we'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, that one was really nice.
Happy to oblige.
Still did good, Captain.
He had a great time.
We need the complications and the danger anyway. Otherwise, what would we do?
Yeah. Hey, Gemma, just hit me up sometime. We can arrange to do some co-streaming for No Man's Sky. But I'm gonna go make some breakfast burritos right now, so I will chat with you later.
night.
Yeah, night everyone. I need to sleep.
Have a good night, okay?
Good night, hun.
And I'm leaving the voice chat too, as I said, but see y'all later.
And good morning / early afternoon, Gemma. I hope the rest of your day